Every Generation 5 Pokemon design inspiration explained. Let's go through the origins of all 155 Pokemon in the Unova Pokédex. Sources for this video: Dr. Lavacut content for the translated Game Freak interviews. Check them out when you have time. The 2024 Game Freak Terra Leak for more insider information, particularly the beta sprites and lore documents. When there is no official source, I used Bulbapedia to help me make educated guesses on the Pokemon inspirations. Number 0. Victini. Victini was created out of a desire for a lucky Pokemon, one that makes you feel like you can pass an exam when it's by your side. Apparently, it was designed to appeal more towards women than men. Victini's most prominent feature is its V-shaped head, which is meant to bring good luck. This Pokemon's appearance looks like Usagi Ringo, where apples are cut and shaped like rabbits. Additionally, V for Victini was introduced in Generation 5, where the Roman numeral for 5 is V. According to lore from the leaked documents, Victini graced the people and Pokemon of a country hit by a large-scale disaster approximately 700 years ago. Victini may have a connection to nuclear power. Only one nation was able to monopolize its power, which could be a reference to America using the atomic bombs Little Boy and Fat Man on Hiroshima and Nagasaki during World War II. Furthermore, the letter V can be associated with VJ Day, Victory over Japan Day, which marked the end of World War II when Imperial Japan surrendered to the Allies. Unova is based on America, particularly it is heavily inspired by Manhattan Island. The codename for the research and development of the atomic bombs was codenamed the Manhattan Project. Coincidence? During the Victini event in Pokemon Black and White, they mention Victini is a mythical Pokemon that is said to radiate energy from its body, and that the one who obtains this Pokemon is said to be victorious in any type of competition. Either way, the people in the Pokemon world strive to keep Victini out of the wrong hands. Like and subscribe. Snivy, Servine, Serperior. The developers at Game Freak had the idea that grass goes well with reptiles. There are snakes that look like vines. As they designed the Snivy line, they made it gradually become more like a snake as it evolved, since they thought snakes are discomforting. Serperior does have hands, by the way, they just fold them behind their back while looking regal. Moreover, the Generation 5 starter evolutions are themed around the culture of Japan, the West, and China. Game Freak themselves comment, Serperior was representing the West and designed with the concept of an aristocratic European knight. Tepig, Pignite, and Emboar are pigs with a fire motif. Li Hyungjung, the original designer for Tepig, said he wanted to have a Pokemon that figuratively looked cute enough to eat at the start, but would eventually evolve to the point where it'd wind up eating you instead. Emboar symbolizes Chinese culture, and the developers specifically imagined him as Zhang Fei from the Chinese historical novel Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Oshawott, Dewott, and Samurott are water otters. Symbolizing Japanese culture, the designers made Samurott represent samurai. Game Freak felt they had succeeded in making the water starter samurai when they came up with the idea of Dewott removing the shell from its stomach and using it as a weapon when fighting. Omura further comments that he came up with the idea of Samurott after visiting a sea lion show and seeing how strong and powerful they look. I thought the developer commentary on the rules for starter Pokemon is quite interesting and pertinent. It's always grass, fire, and water types. They're always based on recognizable animals, and these Pokemon shouldn't look too strong until they have evolved. Additionally, they divide the roles between the starters because it's boring if they all have the same personality. For instance, Snivy is supposed to be cool, Tepig is supposed to be funny, and Oshawott is supposed to be serious. Not only is there a division of roles in personality, but there is yet another division of roles specifically for the third evolution of every starter. They are assigned a different role, job, or occupation. For example, the third evolution could be a singer, a dancer, or a magician. They could be a sniper, a soccer player, or a drummer, a mage, ninja, tank, and so on. Patrat and Watchog. Patrat is a Generation 5 Rattata. It looks like a chipmunk because of its puffed up cheeks, and it feels like a scout gathering information. A lot of the Pokemon in Generation 5 feel like carbon copies of Pokemon from Generation 1. One of the selling points of Pokemon Black and White is only new Pokemon appear in Unova. You would not be able to use a Pokemon from the previous generations. A lot of Pokemon are designed as parallels, specifically to Generation 1, such as Patrat and Rattata, Pidove and Pidgey, Geodude and Roggenrola, Woobat Swoobat, and so on. Watchog is a second stage to the early root rodent, wearing a striking safety vest. It appears similar to a road worker that directs traffic. Lillipup, Herdier, and Stoutland are based off the Scottish Terrier breed of dogs. The creator said that they liked dogs, so they wanted to design a dog line. Purrloin and Liepard appears to be based on house cats, leopards, or panthers. They seem to be a parallel for Meowth and Persian from Generation 1. Liepard has spots like a leopard, which reminds me of the saying a leopard can't change their spots. Its beta sprites suggest they were based on black panthers. Not only that, but Purrloin means to steal in a stealthy way. These cats have a conniving and mischievous look to them. Takao Uno says Pansage, Pansear, and Panpour were designed according to the 3 gym leaders in Striaton City. Since these gym leaders were waiters in a gym that was a restaurant, Uno thought that their signature Pokemon should be able to cook. First, I decided on a Pokemon for carrying vegetables and herbs, then another one will be responsible for the delicious water used in cooking, and the last one will be responsible for monitoring the strength of the cooking flame. The elemental monkeys also appear to be inspired by the 3 wise monkeys that embody the proverb, hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. Particularly, Pansear, the fire one, has a hand to imply he's listening. Panpour can't see because its eyes are closed, and Pansage has their mouth open to speak. Furthermore, Uno said he designed their hands based on mittens and realized they should be based on dexterous monkeys if they were going to be carrying things. Not only that, but each monkey has a distinct personality, i.e., Simisage is like a punk. Every time I see Simisage, I think of Elvis Presley because of the hairstyle. Simisear is carefree, it doesn't take things seriously, and Simipour, whose hair looks like a waterspout or a fountain, is gentle. You can even distinguish their personalities through their eyes. Munna and Musharna look like a tapir with a dream coming out of its head. They were designed by Miss Nishida. Analyzing the concept art, this 2-stage evolution appears to mirror the inspirations of Drowsy and Hypno, which are based on Baku. Baku are tapir-like creatures in Japanese folklore that eats dreams and nightmares. They were perfect representatives for the dream world in Pokemon Black and White, even before the dream world was conceptualized. Pidove is a sky rat, also known as a pigeon with a heart motif incorporated. They added a heart shape to Pidove's chest and a heart shape to Unfezant's face. Possibly, the heart motif was added because of a pun in the Japanese language. Hato is a pigeon and Hato is a heart. Tranquill is based on an oriental turtle dove, and Unfezant is based on a pheasant, because they felt making a pigeon bigger wouldn't necessarily make it more powerful. Blitzle and Zebstrika are based off zebras with an electric motif. It's like they looked at Generation 1 and saw Ponyta and Rapidash, fire horses, and thought, we need an Equus equivalent. We'll change the element from fire to lightning and change the pony to a zebra. That's the thought process that went behind this design. Roggenrola, Boldore, and Gigalith appear to be based on geodes, ores, minerals, and a formation of crystals. It shares several similarities to the Geodude line where it is rock-type, it is a 3-stage evolutionary line where the final stage evolves by trading, it can have the sturdy ability, and they evolve to the 2nd stage at level 25. Woobat and Swoobat seem to be based on a Honduran white bat. Particularly, Woobat looks fluffy and round like the bats they are based on when they are curled up. It evolves when leveled up with high friendship like Crobat, and its nose represents a heart stamp. Drilbur and Excadrill are based on a mole. Their hands are shaped like shovels and they can spin like a drill to help them excavate and dig through earth. Ordino was designed because they needed a cute Pokemon to fill Chansee's niche. Since the anime would switch to all new Pokemon, the game designers worried about who would stand behind Nurse Joy and help heal wounded Pokemon back to health. Timber and its evolutions are based on construction workers. Their legs are designed after Toby's trousers or baggy pants, which makes their legs look shorter than they actually are. Sugimori comments that Timber is an apprentice, Gerda is a fully fledged adult, and Conqueror is a wise elderly veteran with the aura of an honorable master. Gerda is your best choice when you need pure physical strength, but Conqueror fights not only with his strength, but also with his intellect. All 3 Pokemon have bulging, swollen veins, presumably from extraneous physical labor. There is a progression with the tools they hold as they evolve, with Timber holding a piece of timber, Gerda holding a steel beam, and Conqueror holding 2 pillars of concrete. Seismitoad is based on a Japanese common toad, and they worked backwards to design Palpitoad and Timpo. They went for a more traditional frog-like evolution and attempted to mirror the frog life cycle and how it physically matures in the real world. Timpo is a tadpole or the larval stage, Palpitoad is a froglet that represents the transition between water and land, and Seismitoad is meant to represent the adult frog. Throh is based on Judo, whereas Sawk is based on Karate. Game Freak was thinking about what kind of fighting type Pokemon didn't exist yet, and had the idea of a Pokemon that throws hands. Sawk was born because they needed a rival for Throh, and Karate can be seen as a rival of Judo. These two Pokemon used to have horns, but they were replaced with eyebrows due to overlap with Tornadus and Thundurus having horns. Sewaddle, Swadloon, and Leavanny are leaf insects. The only direct commentary I could find regarding this Pokemon design origin was the creator Tagami explaining that there really is an insect that wards up leaves called an Otoshibumi, which I assume is a leaf roller. They thought that behavior was fascinating and designed a Pokemon based on it. Sewaddle looks like a juvenile caterpillar and can produce silk to help weave clothes. Swadloon seems to be inspired by leaf-rolling insects, and it looks like it's covering itself with its leaves like a blanket. Leavanny seems like a mantis-like leaf insect with elements of being a tailor or a fashion designer. Its category is a nurturing Pokemon, so there are hints of it being mother-like as it nurtures small Pokemon and baby Sewaddles. The Venipede line seems like it's based on a curled-up pill millipede and centipedes. Like some species of centipede, the Venipede line has its two back hind legs angled upwards in the air. These act as feelers or a second pair of antennae at the animal's rear. Alternatively, Whirlipede kind of looks similar to a rubber tire. Scolipede is directly based on a Scolopendra gigantea species, the Amazonian giant centipede. Why this species? Because it's the largest living giant centipede. Scolipede's appearance reminds me of a centaur. Its equine-like appearance may be a reference to wordplay in the Japanese language, where millipede is called Yasude, and it contains a kanji character for horse. Its poison typing, toxicity, and bright pink coloration is reminiscent of the shocking pink dragon millipede. I always find it interesting, comparing what the community says a Pokemon is inspired by and what Game Freak themselves say it's inspired by. Sugimori says that Cottony and Whimsicott resemble sheep. Cottony is a ball of cotton, and sheep produce wool, which are both clothing materials. Pitalo and Lilligant were designed to give the impression of an extravagant princess. Atsuko Nishida, the design, said in an interview that Lilligant was inspired by looking at lilies in her home. Pitalo looks like a bulb of a lily plant, and Lilligant's design seems to be inspired by high-class women's fashion. Sugimori says that Basculin was created because they didn't have enough fish Pokemon in the Pokédex. Basculin is based on bass because New York is a place where you can go bass fishing. Sandile, Crocorock, and Crocodile appear to be based on desert crocodiles. Two species they resemble are the slender-snouted crocodile and Nile crocodile. They look like crooks that are up to no good due to the burglar-like mask around their eyes. Crocodile is also known as a bully of the sands, which may help explain their dark typing. Darumaka and Darmanitan are inspired by the designer's experience of going to a festival burning Japanese Daruma dolls. The Daruma doll they were burning at the festival just happened to look like gorillas, which led to the idea of a fire-type gorilla Pokemon resembling a Daruma doll. Maractus seems to be based on a flowering cactus, such as a prickly pears and bunny ear cactus species. Maractus has Mexican inspirations. They reference mariachi music and make a maraca-like sound when they dance in rhythm. Dwebble and Crustle are hermit crabs. Game Freak commentary mentions that Dwebble and Crustle's shells were originally inspired by pottery, but they modified the shells to have sharper angles. They believe the original designs were too slow and awkward. Scraggy and Scrafty were designed around the concept of low-worn baggy pants. These lizard-like creatures are carrying around their shed skin, which they try to communicate via the sprite animations. Scrafty sports a mohawk haircut, and it may have some elements of various urban youth subcultures like hip-hop, punk rock, or being a hoodlum. Its dark typing may be due to connotations of being a gangster, a ruffian, or a thug. Siglif is based on the Nazca lines, which are large geoglyphs etched into the soil of the Nazca Desert in southern Peru. Moreover, its design seems to incorporate totem pole patterns. When I first heard Siglif is based on the Nazca lines, I couldn't really see it because the tribal patterns were throwing me off. But then I just looked at the outline of the Pokemon and I was like, I see it now. Siglif is specifically based on the hummingbird Nazca lines. You have the three-pronged feet on the sides, the fork-like tail, the pair of wings, and the head and the beak of the hummingbird. It's art, it doesn't have to be exactly the same as real life. Sugimori said that Yamask and Cofagrigus are based on stuff that are scary, but every Pokemon is designed so that they can be your friend. The only direct comment about Yamask's inspiration from the developers was that Yamask's blank facial expression is its most charming feature. Subsequently, the most apt description I can give you for Yamask's design origin is that it's based on a death mask with an Egyptian motif. Death masks are molds of people's face shortly after they pass away. Yamask appears to be a wandering spirit, where the mask it holds is its face when it was human. Cofagrigus' design inspiration is much more obvious in Yamask. It's inspired by ancient Egyptian sarcophaguses. This is one of my favorite Pokemon. Did you know the death mask from Yamask is in between Cofagrigus' eyes? Sarcophaguses are coffins or burial tombs that hold dead bodies or mummified individuals. Pharaohs or wealthy individuals tend to have ornately adorned sarcophagus with gold and gems. The shadow arms and a unique mummy ability affecting those that they make contact with could reference the supposed curses in Egyptian tombs. Tortuga and Caracosta are presumably proto-turtles or prehistoric sea turtles. Specifically, they seem to be inspired by the Archelon, a giant extinct sea turtle from the Cretaceous period. Fossils of the ancient Archelon shows it has a pronounced beak, which both Tortuga and Caracosta appear to share. Notably, Caracosta's chest kind of resembles a bulletproof vest. Another one of my favorites. Archon and Archeops are directly based on an Archaeopteryx fossil, which was previously acknowledged by paleontologists as the oldest known bird. Further support for this inspiration is that Archon and Archeops are categorized as a first bird Pokemon, or the ancestor of all birds. Archaeopteryx means ancient feathers or wing, and the significance of this finding was that it was key evidence for the evolution of feathers and the origin of birds capable of flight. Particularly, Archaeopteryx can be recognized as a transitional fossil, marking the change between non-avian dinosaurs that can't fly and avian dinosaurs, birds. Furthermore, Archeops' Pokédex entry states that it runs better than it flies, and despite being capable of flight, they seem to be better at hunting on the ground. The national Pokédex number for Archeops is 567, which is the same as its base stat total, and a Dewey Decimal number for fossil cold-blooded vertebrates. Additionally, Archon and Archeops have a unique signature ability called Defeatist, where its attack power is halved when its HP is equal to or less than half its maximum. Like once this Pokemon goes below 50% HP, it loses its will to live. It's just too hard to keep fighting. Trubbish and Garbodor were created because Game Freak wanted to include a Pokemon linked to pollution due to the game's main setting being a city. Apparently they all got a kick out of his face. Indeed, Trubbish is based on a trash bag, while Garbodor is a trash bag bursting at the seams with garbage. Zorua and Zoroark were perfectly suited for a Pokemon movie with a Dark-type Pokemon as a main character. The movie they are referencing is Zoroark Master of Illusions. Zoroark's creator, Nishida, stated that she wanted to make another fox-like Pokemon after she designed Vulpix and Ninetales. She explains at the time she was obsessed with a movie with a sad story called Helen the Fox, which motivated her to draw a lively fox-like Pokemon. Zorua and Zoroark appears to be based on Kitsune, or Japanese fox spirits in Japanese folklore. The ability Illusion appears to reference the Kitsune's ability to shapeshift and change form. Minccino is equivalent to Clefairy from Generation 1, and was designed from the request to create a Pokemon that everyone would think is cute. They mentioned that they barely outed Nishida's designs. Instead, they just wanted to make Cinccino look more elegant. Outside of developer commentary, Minccino and Cinccino resemble chinchillas, with Cinccino wearing a long white scarf around its neck. The Gothita evolutionary line is strongly inspired by goth fashion. Gothita represents a child, Gothorita represents a young girl, and Gothitelle is an adult woman. Gothitelle is highly feminine with some links to astronomy. They can predict the future using the placement and movement of the stars. Gothitelle and Reuniclus are version-exclusive counterparts. They are both 3-stage psychic-type evolutionary lines with the same base stat totals and base experience gain. Solosis, Duosion, and Reuniclus are based on the concept of cells and cell division. The green fluid seems to represent cytoplasm, and the line in the middle of its head could represent the cleavage furrow formed as the dividing cells initiate physical separation. Art does not have to completely replicate reality, so I thought I'd briefly go through the stages of mitosis and cell division. Interphase, prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase, cytokinesis. You know, I party more at the club. Before mitosis begins, the parent cell must replicate its DNA to get 2 copies of its DNA. Both daughter cells require a full copy of the DNA to function properly. During interphase, the DNA in a cell is stored as long loose strands called chromatin that are not easily visible. During the first stage of mitosis, the loose strands of DNA condenses into short, thick structures called chromosomes. The nucleus breaks down and dissolves. During the second stage of mitosis, spindle fibers extend from small organelles called centrioles. These spindle fibers attach to the chromosomes and move them so that they line up along the cell equator in a symmetrical manner. During the third stage of mitosis, the centromeres release and the identical DNA strands separate from each other. The spindle fibers pull these towards either end of the cell, namely the cell poles. The cell itself also elongates. During the final stage of mitosis, the spindle fibers break down and release the chromosomes. A new nucleus forms around each set of chromosomes while they decondense back into long loose chromatin strands. As the contents of the cell have been divided, the cell just needs to separate. For animal cells, the cell membrane is pinched down the middle into 2 separate cells, whereas plant cells build a cell plate down the cell equator, which is a precursor to a new cell wall that will separate the 2 daughter cells. Ultimately, 1 cell has finally become 2. That's a very broad simplification of the process of cell division or the stages of mitosis. Yay, I can use my biology degree for something. Ducklet and Swanna to me are a literal interpretation of the ugly duckling fairy tale. A duck turns into a swan. Vanillite, Vanillish, and Vanillux are based on vanilla ice cream, and they were designed to be a multiplication evolution. Specifically, Vanillite represents an ice cream cup, which evolves into a cone, and then into a cone with 2 scoops. The white cream is apparently just snowy cream covering the body of ice. Snowless Vanillite is a rarely seen state that can occur when Vanillite is surprised. The only way to be 100% accurate with explaining the Pokemon design origins is to go straight to the source for the information. Otherwise, you're just making stuff up. Anything other than developer commentary is just guessing. Hence, let's go straight to James Turner himself about the inspirations behind the Vanillite line. When a Vanillux loses its snow covering, its icy form is revealed. Unova was based around New York, and I wanted to make a monster referencing US food mascots like the Pillsbury Doughboy or Grimace. I wanted to capture that blend of cute, goofy, creepy, and happy, which probably explains why the Vanillite line is smiling. Also, New York was a setting for Ghostbusters, so I was thinking of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man too. Dealing and Sawsbuck were implemented because they wanted to incorporate the mechanic of seasons into a Pokemon design. Sawsbuck was created before Dealing, and they thought it would be interesting to represent seasons using its antlers. Subsequently, Dealing was designed to match Sawsbuck's appearance. Ultimately, Dealing and Sawsbuck are deers with antlers that match the season. Pokemon Generation has its Pikachu clone. It was Pichu for Johto, Plasso and Minun for Hoenn, and Pachirisu for Sinnoh. Emolga follows their footsteps with the purpose of being cute. Emolga is based on a flying squirrel because the developers wanted to combine electric type with another type. Additionally, they tried to make Emolga look like it was wearing a cape and show it gliding through its animations. Carablast and Escavalier have an interesting design development process. Originally, Carablast was based on a species of beetle that eats snails called Carabus smaragdinus. Its evolution was meant to be wearing something resembling an armor. They felt the idea of Escavalier wearing another Pokemon shell was more interesting than their original plan of making Carablast eat the snail Pokemon. They ended up scrapping the original snail-based Pokemon and decided that Carablast's evolution would wear Shelmet's shell. Carablast and Shelmet share a predator-prey relationship. Shelmet's design resembles a combination between a snail and a clothes helmet, while Carablast is based on a snail-eating ground beetle. When these 2 Pokemon are traded with each other, Carablast steals Shelmet's shell for itself, leaving Shelmet to soak from the loss of his shell, and they designed its evolution Excelgor with that in mind. Escavalier is one of my favorite Pokemon designs. It most resembles a jostling knight. Furthermore, Escavalier's headwear appears to be based on a medieval centurion Roman helmet with red horsehair. Other design inspirations include dual-wielding lances as its weaponry, and escargot, which is French for snail. Axalgor has a very ninja-esque design, being light and nimble due to removing its heavy shell. Fungus and Amoongus are likely parallels to Voltorb and Electrode. Sugimori states, Fungus fools trainers into thinking it's a Pokeball, but no one would make that mistake with Amoongus, so that was included in his name. There is a fungus among us. Amoongus also looks similar to spotted poisonous mushrooms. How do you tell which mushrooms are safe to eat? Well, if it's bright red, it's probably poisonous. Don't quote me on that. Frillish and Jellicent were modeled after a prince and a princess, but during the balancing phase of development, Ghost was added to their typing. The original designer of the Frillish family felt disappointed that their creations ended up as scary Pokemon. They are based on jellyfish, like Tentacool and Tentacruel, and Jellicent appears to maintain the king and queen royalty motif through its monarch-inspired attire. I couldn't find any developer commentary for Alomomola, but it appears to be based on ocean sunfish, also known as Mola Mola. It is one of the largest bony fish species in the world, resembling a fish head without a tail. Joltik seems to be inspired by ticks based on its name, size, and Pokédex entries where it latches onto larger Pokémon and drains them of their static electricity. Its design may also be influenced by jumping spiders and tarantulas. Galvantula appears to be based on a tarantula. Normally spiders would have 8 legs, but Galvantula appears to have 6 legs. Ferroseed and Ferrothorn were created when an order came in for a dual-type grass and steel-type Pokemon. Sugimori states the design was to be something like those seeds that sometimes sticks to your clothes. We had the idea that large groups of these Pokemon would stick to rock faces. Ferroseed heavily resembles cockleburs, burdocks, or cleaver plants, where the seeds have hooks to help them latch onto whatever it makes contact with. One mode of seed dispersal is using animals as a vector. Hooked fruits use their clinging properties to attach themselves to clothing, fur of mammals, or feathers of birds. Clink, Clang, and Klinklang are based on interlocking gears, and they were created due to an order for something inorganic. Sugimori comments that Klink is a Pokemon with a good face. As it evolves, extra gears are added, so it produces more energy. Particularly, the Klink family mirrors the concept of Magneton, Executor, and Dugtrio, multiples of the first stage. Tynamo, Electrok, and Electros is an underrated Pokemon evolutionary line designed by Yusuke Omura. Omura states that he once caught a humongous eel in a nearby river and that it was disgusting, but that experience is what inspired his idea for this evolutionary line. Electric was directly inspired by the eel he caught, which best evoked this feeling of strong but disgusting. Tynamo was conceived because we wanted the evolutionary line to reflect how an actual eel physically matures in a real world. Tynamo is based on the flat and transparent larval stage of an eel, also called a leptocephalus, meaning slim head. Electric seems to have some lamprey-inspired elements, specifically its circular mouth or oral disc lined with teeth, and the dots on the side of its body just behind the eyes resembling gill openings. Electros would aptly be described as an electric eel, but it maintains design elements from lampreys. Ground is the only type that is super effective against electric, but because of Electros' ability to levitate, it effectively has no weaknesses under normal battle conditions. Algium and Behem really needed developer commentary to clarify its design inspirations. This one is difficult to explain, but they seem to be based on alien stereotypes or extraterrestrials that came from Mars or something like that. Algium sounds like the abbreviation for Little Green Men, while Behem sounds like Bug-Eyed Monster, which are both early depictions of extraterrestrials in the science fiction genre. Algium evolves at level 42, which may be a reference to the answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything is 42. From the novel The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, there's some reference to UFO sightings or alien abductions. Specifically, Behem is believed to be responsible for the mysterious disappearances of Dubwool whenever it visits a farm. Not only that, Algium and Behem are categorized as a cerebral Pokemon with enlarged heads signifying advanced intelligence. They can use flashing lights on their different colored fingers to communicate, but they can also manipulate an opponent's memory, kinda like the neuralizer that wipes people's memories from Men in Black. Suffice to say, Algium and Behem are very mysterious beings. The original idea for the Litwick line was a Pokemon family that starts as a flame, then a candle, and finally a lamp. However, the concept of a flame evolving into a candle wasn't working. Litwick is a lit candle, Lampin is a lamp, and Chandelier is a chandelier. Haxorus was the first Unovan Pokemon to be created. It was based on the concept of a cool dinosaur-like Pokemon which attacks by swinging its axe-like fangs instead of using its mouth to bite. Game Freak specifically mentions that the defining characteristic of this Pokemon is its fangs, and that Haxorus's pre-evolutions were reverse engineered from Haxorus's design. Cubchoo was based on the concept of freezing snot. Additionally, the animal Cubchoo and Beartic represents are polar bears. Cryogonal is inspired by a snowflake and ice crystals, particularly because of its hexagonal shape and arrows pointing inwards meeting in the middle. Stunfisk was created by Munna eBay out of the desire to make the flattest Pokemon. Game Freak comments that Stunfisk was modeled after a goosefish, was blue in color, and was dual-type water and electric. However, they changed the water typing into ground for balancing reasons, and Stunfisk ended up resembling a flounder. Mindfu and Mindshao were created because there weren't enough fighting-type Pokemon, and because so many of the pre-existing fighting Pokemon resembled humans, they asked that these designs be animal-based. In short, Mindfu and Mindshao are Kung Fu weasels. Kung Fu martial arts originated from China, and Mindshao's arms are reminiscent of Shui Xiu, water sleeves, or long flowing sleeves from Chinese opera performers. I couldn't find any developer commentary on Druddigon, but it's okay because I have a PhD in bullshitting. Druddigon may be based on a red-headed rock agama reptile because of its red head contrasting with its blue draconic body. Other possible inspirations include European dragons due to their cave-dwelling nature, or gargoyles from their rugged rocky-like appearance. Golett and Golurk were created by James Turner, and it's based on a golem of Prague. Other game developers commented that they liked the fact that the broken part of Golurk's chest was joined together with a seal. Because they're as old as the historic ruins they inhabit, energy might leak out of their body, so the uncontrollable power is sealed inside them. Golurk has many different poses in its concept art, including one where it draws in its limbs so it can fly. Ponyard and Bisharp are steel dark type Pokemon that dwells in urban cities. They are samurai-like Pokemon that are somewhat artificial, covered in sharp objects, and hunts anybody that gets close. Additionally, they have both a humanoid and insect-like design. This insect-like design may be because the blade on Bisharp's helmet resembles horns of kabutomushi, or Japanese rhinoceros beetles. Kabuto is also a type of samurai helmet that Ponyard and Bisharp wear. I wasn't sure about this one, but I'll include it just in case. Bisharp may possibly be inspired by Jet Jaguar's design from the Godzilla movies. Boffalin is based on a buffalo wearing an afro. It's a bovine Pokemon filling Tauros' niche in Unova. There's quite a bit of explanation from the developers themselves about Rufflet and Braviary, which are counterparts to Vullaby and Mandibuzz. Braviary are all male, while Mandibuzz are all female. Braviary is a Pokemon based on a bald eagle, as the game developers were wondering, how do we incorporate the game setting of New York or America into some designs? Specifically, Braviary's color palette is broadly red, white, and blue, similar to the colors of the American flag. They included the bald eagle's strong legs based on how they were depicted in Native American art. Rufflet also has a feather referencing Native American feather decorations, but the developers further mentioned that they've always loved the look of a chick's fluffy white head, so they gave Rufflet a big round head to emphasize that characteristic. Vullaby and Mandibuzz are motherly counterparts to the fatherly Rufflet and Braviary. When Mandibuzz is incubating Vullaby eggs, it forms an upside-down skull. Vullaby was further conceived with the idea that they would use dead Pokemon bones as a nest and grow up inside them. If Braviary are based on eagles, Mandibuzz are based on vultures. Heatmor and Durant are counterparts, with one based on an ant and the other an anteater. Both of these Pokemon can be found on Victory Road. Sugimori had a very clear vision of ants that dug themselves a cave and an anteater that came in to prey upon them. Heatmor is an anteater with elements of ironworks in its design, and Durant is an ant covering itself with steel armor. They share a predator-prey relationship where Heatmor deals 4 times super effective damage on Durant, completely decimating it in terms of type advantage. Dano, Zweilous, and Hydreigon were originally based on a war tank, but these designs weren't really working, leading to the purple stripes on Zweilous' stomach as vestiges from those early designs. When they had an order for a powerful 3-stage dragon family, they resurrected those designs into the Pokemon we know today. They wanted colors that were unique and made the Pokemon look tough. Hydreigon is directly based on Yamata no Orochi, the mythical Japanese dragon with 8 heads. Based on this statement here, the aim was to recreate Yamata no Orochi, but so many heads can make a creature look disgusting. Hence, they designed Hydreigon to have one true head, and whose arms and wings give it a silhouette that still looks like lots of heads. The 2 arms that look like heads don't actually have their own individual brains. One of the game designers, Uno, remarks, "Well, when I heard that Hydreigon was modeled after Orochi, I told them it's supposed to have 8 heads. Hydreigon has 3 heads, including arms, and 6 wings. That's a total of 9. To which Sugimori responds, "It's all goods. 9 is 1 better than Orochi." Larvesta and Volcarona are a strong bug-fire Pokemon that appears in ruins. The design team felt there hadn't been a Pokemon with a moth motif in a long time, so they decided to create a strong and majestic moth. We gave it 6 wings that look like the sun. We thought that boosted its sense of majesty and dignity. Plus, Volcarona is a champion's signature Pokemon, so we made sure its appearance made it look strong. In Larvesta's case, the spikes coming out of its neck are a reference to the Tower of the Sun. Previously, Volcarona had 4 wings like a regular moth, but they added another pair of wings, which they felt made Volcarona look significantly more powerful. Since Volcarona is a sun Pokemon, the spots on its wings may represent sunspots, which are regions of reduced surface temperature on the sun. To be honest, I'm not certain about Volcarona being inspired by Mothra from the Godzilla films, but I'll include it here. Legendaries time! The Swords of Justice, Cobalion, Terrakion, Virizion, and Keldeo are based on the 3 Musketeers. Cobalion is based on Arthos, the de facto leader of the 3 Musketeers. It looks similar to a goat, stag, or antelope. Terrakion represents Porthos, the loud, brash, yet courageous friend. As a bulkiest member of the Swords of Justice, Terrakion resembles a bull or an ox with axe-like horns. Virizion represents Aramis, the handsome romantic young man. Virizion's appearance resembles a Gerenuk or a gazelle. Finally, Keldeo is based on a young fledgling hero D'Artagnan, with an ordinary form and a resolute form. Keldeo's resolute form has 3 feathers, which may symbolize its 3 companions and teachers: blue for Cobalion, orange for Terrakion, and green for Virizion. Other inspirations for Keldeo's design may include water kelpies or Chinese unicorns due to Keldeo's pony-like appearance and ability to run across water. Supplementary comments from Sugimori states that Masuda asked for Pokemon based on Fujin and Raijin, but these designs were not completed until late into development. The designers in charge were told to make the eyes of these Pokemon large and intimidating to resemble Asura statues or Buddhist demigods with their very powerful presence. Thundurus is based on Raijin, a kami or demigod of thunder and lightning, while Tornadus is based on Fujin, a kami or demigod of wind. Landorus was designed as a god of land, or the guardian of the fields that grants bountiful crops through creating energy to increase the nutrition in the soil. Landorus quells the fighting between the incarnations of wind and lightning. These 3 Pokemon legendaries are collectively known as the Forces of Nature, who have both an incarnate form that resembles genies and Etherian forms, which appears closer to quadrupedal beasts. One interview I found included the question asking, "Is it true that the new Therian forms of Tornadus, Thundurus, and Landorus are inspired by the 4 guardian beasts of Kyoto? If so, why isn't the 4th guardian beast, Genbu, Protector of the North, present?" Junichi Masuda responds, "Well, they weren't originally based on that legend, they were originally based on Fujin and Raijin, but yes, their inspiration is obviously these beings you mention. In Japan, we like to base ourselves on these kinds of mythological sources, but we do not strictly follow the legend that inspires these Pokemon. The Therian forms of the Forces of Nature are loosely based on the 4 guardian beasts or the 4 symbols or the guardians of the 4 cardinal direction. You can definitely nitpick on the colors, but Landorus is supposedly meant to resemble the white tiger of the west. Thundurus is meant to be Azure Dragon of the east, and Tornadus as a Vermilion Phoenix of the South. Reshiram and Zekrom are the box art legendaries of Pokemon Black and White. Particularly, they were designed so that one of them should be a really strong white and the other a really strong black. Sugimori corroborates on his comments, saying that Reshiram was to look feminine, graceful, light and fire-like, whereas Zekrom was to look masculine, tough and electric-like. Zekrom was also supposed to have 4 hands, where its wings appear to look like another pair of hands. Furthermore, Re was used for Reshiram because it was a softer sound in Zekrom's Ze, since Reshiram was a less physically powerful character. The central point of their respective designs are the tails, which are based off electric turbines used for power generation. These instruments were to give the impression that they were great big generators of fire or electric energy. From the leaked lore documents, in ancient history, Reshiram and Zekrom appears when an individual seeking truth appears. Reshiram or Zekrom fights a human, testing its mind and strength. Once the test is complete, and Reshiram Zekrom recognizes a human as a hero, it bestows upon knowledge accumulated over thousands of years, and bares its fangs towards any that prove hostile. Reshiram or Zekrom then watches over the hero, similar to a mother or father. What made it into the games was a statement that if the hero ever is filled with greed or loses the righteousness of their heart, their kingdoms would be raised into a land of flames or lightning, and then Reshiram or Zekrom would leave. Reshiram represents truth, while Zekrom represents ideals. Their colors can be a reference to the yin-yang symbol from Taoism, or the idea of dualism, complementary components to a greater whole. Kyurem was designed in such a way that it could be improved, and that it was related to Reshiram and Zekrom. Kyurem also has 2 new forms from fusing with either Zekrom or Reshiram. Kyurem seems to represent Wuji, the absence of yin-yang in Taoism. Its ice typing may allude to the absence of energy and heat, as well as a concept of nothingness or absolute zero. In the games, an NPC states that Kyurem is supposedly the leftovers of the single powerful dragon Pokemon owned by the twin heroes of Unova after it split up into Reshiram and Zekrom. It's obviously not based on insects, but cicadas molting to leave its old shell behind is an analogy that makes sense to me on how Kyurem seems like a shell, or a vessel waiting to be filled. More leaked documents state that Kyurem can see into the future and protects the world based on the future it sees. It will ruthlessly destroy any hostile elements made by humans that threaten this future. The Godstone may revive it. In Mystery Dungeon Gates to Infinity, Kyurem's characterization completely lines up with the leaked lore. It is able to see into the future, and it tried to protect the world that it saw from humans. A lot of the leaks lines up with what actually made it into the game. Think of when you write a novel with characters in it, and you write backstory or profiles for your characters. You're not going to put the entire character profile into your story, but you can use it to inform your writing and the character's motivations. Speculation-wise, Kyurem's stubby arms reminds me of the Tyrannosaurus's small arms. There may be a possible reference to comets comprised of ice crystals due to Kyurem's rock-like design and story of crash landing on a planet inside an icy meteor, creating a giant chasm. Melioda is a Pokemon based on the personification of music. Melioda also resembles an idol, singer or vocaloid as it sings melodies with the power to control the feelings of those who hear it. Particularly, Melioda's headpiece resembles a stylized clef or part of a headset microphone. Its fingerless hands are shaped after the musical notes, specifically the quarter note symbol. The pattern on its hair resembles staff lines and bar lines in music sheets. Melioda's pirouette form seems inspired by ballet dancers in a tutu. In the Pokemon anime series, the transformation between Aria form and Pidove form seems inspired by magical girls' transformation sequences. The method to obtain Melioda in Pokemon Scarlet Violet Indigo Disc references the original event in Black and White, where Melioda spins clockwise round and round after an NPC mentions being reminded of a long-ago melody from the fringes of his sepia-toned memories. Finally, Genesect was previously a Bug-Rock-type Pokemon that turned into Bug-Steel-type due to external modifications by Team Plasma. Genesect is conceptualized as an insect from the Paleozoic era 300 million years ago. There wasn't any developer commentary, so through speculation, Genesect may be inspired by tree hoppers, artillery mech vehicles, or mechanical robots. If you enjoyed the video, Be sure to like and subscribe. We're trying to get over 1,000 subscribers. It's been at least 2 years since I've started uploading videos onto YouTube. I have put hundreds and hundreds of hours into this YouTube channel already. Please subscribe, it helps a small channel way more than a big channel. Thank you for watching every Generation 5 Pokemon Design Inspiration Explained.